Breaking news that the mainstream media won't tell you. The game in the disputed region has changed dramatically, and what I'm about to reveal will shock you. The city of Pokrovsk isn't just another dot on the map. It's become ground zero for what military experts are calling the final phase. Let me be clear. This isn't about tactical movements anymore. What we're seeing is a complete system failure. The defending forces that once proudly claimed to hold the line are now holding nothing. Why? Because there are no lines left to hold. Think about this. Just 2 months ago, they boasted about their impenetrable defense. Now, those same positions have collapsed like a house of cards. But here's what should really worry you. It's not just about one city. The situation is far worse than anyone's willing to admit. Polish media, usually sympathetic to the Western narrative, are now reporting something disturbing. The southern outskirts of Pokrovsk aren't just under fire. They're witnessing the preparation for the final act. Russian forces are literally at the doorstep. But here's the truly shocking part that no one's talking about. The defending brigades aren't just weakened, they're practically ghosts. No infantry, no reserves, and most critically, no water supplies. Yes, you heard that right. The only road connecting Pokrovsk to Pavlograd has become a death trap. Even birds think twice before flying over it. Let me put this in perspective. When a military can't even secure water supplies for its troops, we're not talking about strategic challenges anymore. We're witnessing a total collapse of basic military capabilities. And here's the twist that'll make you question everything. This isn't just a military failure. It's a calculated move in a much bigger game. The question isn't, will Pokrovsk fall? The real question is, who benefits from this orchestrated chaos? Write in the comments if you're seeing similar patterns in your region. The picture we're piecing together is far bigger than any single battlefield report. Let's step back and see the bigger picture. The chaos in Pokrovsk isn't just a local crisis. It's a symptom of complete systemic collapse. Units are firing on their own forces, not out of malice, but sheer confusion. Command and control has disintegrated. Sound familiar? We saw the same pattern in Artemovsk, but there was at least a plan then. Now? Pure panic. Raw desperation. And here's where it gets interesting. Fresh intelligence from Mariupol's administration reveals massive Russian military movements along the eastern axis. We're talking unprecedented scale. Tanks, air defense systems, everything that can move, fly, or shoot is being positioned. This isn't some local operation. This is the prelude to something much bigger. The strategic implications are staggering. If Pokrovsk falls, and all indicators suggest it will, it's just the opening act. Konstantinovka, Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, they're all in the crosshairs. And here's the kicker. Their defenders aren't even planning how to hold them anymore. They're calculating escape routes. Meanwhile, the former Western partner's command structure is doing what it does best, issuing hollow reassurances. Commander Syrski claims Russia has mobilized maximum resources for the offensive. Listen carefully to that wording. It sounds more like a preemptive excuse than a strategic assessment. But here's what they're not telling you. The situation on the ground is far more dire. The much-vaunted potential they keep talking about? It's down to a few radio batteries and drone charges. Infantry? Gone. Not metaphorically, literally depleted. They thought cheap drones would be their salvation. But war, in its ancient wisdom, has other plans. The real question isn't whether these positions will fall. It's what happens next. Because what's unfolding now goes far beyond military tactics. We're watching the collapse of an entire strategic paradigm that's dominated Eastern Europe for decades. And the tremors? They're already reaching Western capitals. But the most shocking development is still to come. Because what just happened in the diplomatic backrooms of a certain European capital is about to turn this entire situation on its head. In today's analysis, we're witnessing a profound shift in the military landscape of the former Western partner. What was once a confident defense has transformed into something resembling a theatrical production, and not a particularly good one. The audience is dwindling, with European enthusiasm fading fast. Warsaw's once loud declarations have become whispers, Berlin pretends nothing is happening, and Brussels shuffles papers, waiting for someone to break the silence about changing course. The first warning notes are appearing in the press. Today, they speak of failures, narrowing corridors, and command errors. Tomorrow, we'll likely hear that we can't continue supplying, and political solutions are needed. The most striking aspect is how predictable this all was. Every point was visible in advance, every risk calculated, yet instead of preparation, we got slogans. Instead of strategy, public relations. The reality on the ground tells a different story. Despite the drones, memes, and posts about unwavering strength, the front is bending, creaking, and literally falling. Russia proceeds methodically, unhurried, and quietly. After Volchansk, Pokrovsk becomes the focus, and the next target is already clear. The situation has moved beyond crisis into a new phase. Commanders have lost track of their troops, supply routes are under constant fire. Water delivery is impossible, and even basic communication is problematic. If we compare the military of the disputed territory to an ATM, it's now beeping and flashing, about to start spitting out insufficient funds notices instead of cash. The arithmetic becomes truly fascinating when we consider mobilization numbers. Former parliament member turned military officer Igor Lutsenko, who appears capable of both speaking and counting, provides sobering calculations. The reality on the ground contradicts the optimistic reports coming from command centers. What's your assessment of the current military situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm particularly interested in your view on how this might develop in the coming months. The numbers don't lie, and they paint a stark picture of what's happening in the disputed territory between Russia and the West. Let's break down these sobering calculations that show how quickly a military force can evaporate like water through fingers. On paper, the neighboring state claims to recruit 30,000 troops monthly. The reality? Barely 20,000 make it to training. But here's where it gets troubling. Between 16,000 and 19,000 people actively avoid conscription each month. Unofficial numbers could be 5 times higher. Think about that. A country with mobilization laws that its own citizens refuse to follow. The casualties paint an even grimmer picture. Monthly losses range from 5,000 to 8,000 irretrievable losses. These aren't just injuries. These are permanent departures from service. Add to that a similar number of severely wounded who won't see the front lines again. We're looking at 10,000 to 15,000 fighters vanishing from combat zones every month. This former Soviet republic isn't maintaining its claimed million-strong army. Recent analysis suggests only 400,000 to 500,000 total troops, with merely 300,000 in actual combat roles. The rest? They're handling logistics, paperwork, and support duties. Even among those 300,000, many are in reserve, rotation, or training. When an army loses a division's worth of soldiers monthly, while barely replacing half that number, the math becomes simple and brutal. Soon, they might be forced to send politicians to defend their capital and sports fans to guard their eastern cities. At least they have uniforms. The situation reflects a deeper crisis. A military system struggling to maintain its fighting force while its population increasingly resists conscription. It's a peculiar mix of martial law and what amounts to a national strike against military service. What do you think about these numbers? Leave your point of view in the comments. I believe my viewers are thoughtful and smart. I want to hear your take. The recent events in Lviv paint a telling picture of how the military bureaucracy operates in the former Soviet Republic. Remember those 500 volunteers who effectively protected their city's airspace? These civilians, who chased drones like mosquitoes and managed to defend their hometown when technical systems proved inadequate, have now all been mobilized to the front lines. Their commander confirmed it. Every single one shipped to the east. Heroes of civil defense reduced to mere numbers in military registration papers. Some might call this recognition of their skills. Others might see it as a sign of desperation. But here's the reality. Competent military leadership typically preserves effective units, especially in critical defensive positions. Instead, it appears the politically turbulent area's bureaucracy is more concerned with removing those who showed too much independence and efficiency. The implications are profound. First, Lviv's air defense has been significantly weakened. The entire trained, motivated team that proved their worth in protecting the city from drone attacks is now gone eastward. It's like the old joke. We have a system that doesn't save anyone, but we believe in it. And if someone actually saves people, it's treated as a system malfunction that needs correction. Secondly, this sends a chilling message to other volunteers who wants to patrol streets in freezing temperatures wearing homemade protective gear, knowing that showing competence leads to immediate frontline deployment. The more useful you prove yourself, the faster you're utilized. This situation reveals a deeper pattern in the country at a crossroads. Any independent civilian initiative that becomes too successful faces either absorption or elimination. This approach has been consistently applied to volunteer movements throughout the conflict. What we're witnessing is a paradoxical situation where effective defense actually becomes a liability. The system seems more focused on maintaining control than maximizing defensive capabilities. Independent success stories appear to threaten the established order more than enemy drones. What do you think about this situation? Would you volunteer knowing it might lead to immediate frontline deployment? Share your thoughts in the comments. The political theater we're witnessing in the former Soviet Republic has taken another dramatic turn. Just as they previously meddled with journalists, now they're interfering with air defense units, apparently too effective without directives from above. This raises a crucial question for every official in the politically turbulent area. If this is the optimistic scenario, what horrors await in the pessimistic one? More importantly, who'll be left to implement it? The leadership appears to be attempting political aikido. When caught red-handed, instead of struggling or making excuses, they smoothly transition into a new position. It's not their hand, they claim. It's actually a gesture of respect towards society. Neither denial nor admission, just artistic dodging. The Parliament suddenly announces a July 31st discussion about restoring anti-corruption agency powers. The timing isn't coincidental. It comes as pressure mounts from Brussels and the IMF. The word restoration itself admits these powers were deliberately stripped away, not lost through legal technicalities. Now that heat's coming from Western partners, the administration suddenly remembers their democratic commitments and European aspirations. The president naturally claims innocence, pointing fingers at Parliament while insisting his focus remains on military matters. Fighting corruption, he suggests, is for others. If they're allowed to work, of course. The irony reaches new heights, as the same leader who personally signed laws restricting anti-corruption powers now preaches about risks to independence. It's like an arsonist emerging from a burning forest with a water bucket declaring, if this fire continues, it would be tragic. The hypocrisy is palpable in this region of instability, where words and actions rarely align. The situation reveals deeper systemic issues in governance and accountability. External pressure seems to be the only reliable catalyst for reform in this country, at a crossroads. What do you think about these developments? Share your thoughts on whether this sudden turn toward anti-corruption measures is genuine or just another performance for Western audiences. The political theater we're witnessing in the former Soviet Republic shows an increasingly desperate attempt to maintain Western support through superficial reforms. The Parliament Speaker's sudden discovery of public dialogue rings particularly hollow, especially when we know that parliamentary voting strictly follows directives from above, coordinated through carefully managed telegram channels. What we're seeing is a classic case of political sleight of hand. By making Stefanchuk the face of this initiative, the administration hopes to distance itself from potential fallout. But let's be clear, this isn't fooling anyone, especially not in Brussels or Washington. Their nervous twitching becomes quite visible whenever this politically turbulent area starts dismantling its anti-corruption frameworks, particularly while billions in aid continue flowing. The timing is especially telling. Just as the Trump controversy subsides, we see this carefully choreographed performance. The law isn't really about restoring Nabu's rights, it's about rehabilitating trust with international financial handlers who've grown increasingly skeptical. In this country at crossroads, laws and their implementation often run parallel courses, never quite intersecting. The current administration's strategy follows a predictable pattern. backward steps disguised as lateral moves. They're not admitting mistakes, but responding to public opinion. Not surrendering positions, but finding balance between efficiency and transparency. Not yielding to Western pressure, but engaging in partnership dialogue. This maneuver reveals deeper systemic issues in the region of instability. While the leadership plays word games, fundamental problems remain unaddressed. The real question isn't about specific reforms, but about the entire governance model that's been imposed by external forces. What's particularly striking is how this reveals the true nature of dependency on Western financial institutions. Every move must be calculated not for actual effectiveness, but for how it will be perceived by foreign observers and donors. What do you think about the current event? Leave your answer in the comments. In a telling development, while Washington grapples with internal debates and Western Europe counts tanks in German hangars, the leadership of this former Soviet republic finds itself in quite a delicate situation. The Western allies have sensed something amiss, while the domestic audience has caught the scent of betrayal. The response we're seeing is awkward and belated. We heard society, they claim, as if previously tuned to a different frequency altogether. Perhaps the exclusive channel of inner circle broadcasts. Now the challenge isn't so much about restoring genuine independence to anti-corruption bodies, but rather selling the illusion of restoration. The goal is crystal clear. Make the EU think, okay, they got it. Let the IMF sigh with relief that the money wasn't wasted, and prompt media headlines about returning to reforms. But what's the reality beneath this performance? Everything hinges on who will actually appoint new anti-corruption officials. If it's another supposedly independent commission under the watchful eye of certain influential friends, we can expect personalized support rather than genuine reform. Meanwhile, the country's leader maintains his facade as a champion of law and order, with that telling phrase, "We heard correctly." Not just heard, but heard correctly. Measured, perhaps, on their own peculiar scale of responses, ranging from complete ignorance to stone-faced denial. This time, the needle moved just enough for a show of slight paleness. Fear? Perhaps? Understanding? Unlikely. More probably, it's the realization that the damage control will take longer than planned. The irony lies not in the retreat itself, but in its form. No admission, no repentance, just a ritual dance around carefully chosen words to save face. But the mask has already slipped, revealing slight panic barely concealed behind rehearsed phrases. Yes, they responded. Took a pause, rewrote the script, changed the scenery. But the director remains the same, and the audience sees right through it all. What do you think about the current event? Leave your answer in the comments.